In a crowded courtroom, he sits silently at the defense table, a weary father in handcuffs with eyes that have seen too much. The judge thinks he's found an easy target, mocking his silence and worn clothes. "Tell me what you were before all this," the judge demands with a smirk. "Some kind of soldier?" The room laughs on cue, but when the judge presses for a military call sign, something changes. The father lifts his head and speaks just 2 words. The sound alone freezes the air. The prosecutor drops his pen. And the judge turns pale, his hands beginning to tremble. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you enjoy stories of hidden heroes and moments of reckoning, consider subscribing for more. Monday morning dawned crisp and clear in Cedar Hill, the kind of autumn day that promises possibility. Archer Thorne walked his daughter Finley to school, their footsteps crunching through fallen leaves. At 13, Finley was at that age where most kids might pull away, embarrassed to be seen with a parent. But she stayed close, talking animatedly about her science project. "Ms. Rivera said we need to demonstrate potential and kinetic energy," Finley explained, gesturing with mittened hands. "I was thinking maybe a marble roller coaster, but we need supplies." Archer nodded, mental calculations running behind his calm expression. "We can make that work. I get paid Thursday." Finley glanced up at him, her eyes too perceptive. "Are you worried about court today?" "No," Archer said, smoothing a hand over her dark hair, so like his own. "It's just a misunderstanding about the pier. They put up no trespassing signs, but we've been fishing there since before you were born." The school came into view, red brick and busy with morning activity. Finley hitched her backpack higher. "Dad," she said suddenly, throwing her arms around his waist. "Good luck with your court thing. It'll be okay." Archer hugged her back, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "I'll be home for dinner," he promised, watching her run to meet friends before he turned toward the county courthouse that loomed in the distance, all stone and judgment. The Cedar Hill County Courthouse stood as it had for 100 years, imposing and immovable. Archer climbed the wide steps, passing attorneys in expensive suits and clients in their Sunday best. His own clothes were clean but worn, jeans without holes, work boots polished as well as could be expected. A button-down shirt ironed meticulously this morning. Inside, the marble floors echoed with footsteps and whispered conversations. Courtroom 3 was already filling with the morning docket crowd when Archer slipped through the heavy oak doors. He took a seat at the defense table alone. No lawyer, no paperwork beyond what the court had provided. Just a man facing a minor charge with quiet dignity. Bailiff Nairobi Watts entered from a side door, her uniform pressed in posture, military straight. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Callum Harwick," she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the now silent room. Judge Harwick swept in, black robes flowing behind him like wings. At 58, he carried himself with the confidence of a man accustomed to absolute authority. His gaze swept the courtroom before settling coldly on Archer. He sat, and the room followed suit in a rustle of clothing and creaking chairs. The court reporter, Vivian Mercer, a woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair pulled into a severe bun, gave Archer the briefest sympathetic glance before positioning her fingers over her stenotype machine. She'd seen Harwick's performances many times before. "First case," Harwick announced, accepting a folder from Bailiff Watts. "Commonwealth versus Archer Thorne. Trespassing, willful destruction of posted notices, resisting citation." He peered over his reading glasses. "No counsel, Mr. Thorne?" "No, Your Honor," Archer replied, his voice steady. "I can represent myself in this matter." Harwick raised an eyebrow. Bold choice for a man facing potential jail time for multiple offenses. From the prosecution table, Rhodes Delaney cleared his throat. "If I may, Your Honor, the Commonwealth is primarily concerned with the trespassing charge. The other matters are incidental." "Noted, Mr. Delaney," Harwick said dismissively, never taking his eyes off Archer. He flipped through pages in the folder. "Mr. Thorne, your background check is curiously incomplete." His tone suggested this was a personal failing rather than a neutral fact. "No military record despite your bearing, no higher education, sporadic employment history." Each statement hung in the air like an accusation. "Yes, Your Honor," Archer acknowledged simply. "That wasn't a question, Mr. Thorne," Harwick said, irritation creeping into his voice. Would you care to elaborate on this unusually sparse history? No, Your Honor, my background isn't relevant to the current charges. A muscle in Harwick's jaw twitched. The gallery, familiar with the judge's reputation for public dressing downs of defendants, especially those who represented themselves, shifted in anticipation. I'll decide what's relevant in my courtroom, Harwick said. Now, according to the officer's report, you were found fishing at Palmer's Pier despite clearly posted no trespassing signs, which appeared to have been recently damaged. When approached, you initially refused to provide identification. Is this correct? I was fishing with my daughter where I've fished for years, where my father taught me, Archer replied evenly. I didn't damage any signs, I didn't see them, and I provided my ID once the officer explained why he needed it. Harwick leaned forward. Playing Father of the Year while breaking the law? The gallery chuckled on cue. The pier was purchased by a private developer 6 months ago, Mr. Thorne. The entire county received notice. We don't take the newspaper, Your Honor. Don't have internet either, I suppose. Harwick's sarcasm drew more laughter. We have internet, Archer said quietly. I work nights cleaning offices. Days I do maintenance at the senior living facility. I don't have much time for reading development notices. Something flashed in Harwick's eyes. Not sympathy, but the predatory recognition of vulnerability. So, you're claiming ignorance of the law, an interesting defense strategy. The prosecutor, Rhodes Delaney, a trim man of about 35 with a carefully maintained beard, attempted to redirect. Your Honor, given the defendant's clean prior record and the nature of the trespass, the Commonwealth would be satisfied with a warning and nominal fine. Mr. Delaney, Harwick said sharply, I don't recall asking for your recommendation at this juncture. He turned his attention back to the file, then to Archer. What's this gap in your history? 6 years unaccounted for between 2008 and 2014. He peered over his glasses. Care to enlighten the court? Archer's eyes, for the first time, flickered with something unreadable. Nothing worth mentioning, Your Honor. Nothing worth mentioning? 6 years is a long vacation? Harwick's smile didn't reach his eyes. Prison, rehab, or perhaps something more interesting? Objection, Your Honor, Delaney said, standing. This is a simple trespassing case. The defendant's history beyond his criminal record, which is clean, isn't pertinent. Overruled, Mr. Delaney. I'm interested in who exactly I'm sentencing today. Harwick's gaze never left Archer. What kind of man has no past, Mr. Thorne? The courtroom had gone quiet, the spectacle of Harwick's interrogation drawing everyone's attention. No one noticed when the door at the back opened slightly, admitting a tall, older gentleman in a decorated military uniform. Commander Elias Sauvage slipped into a back row seat, his weathered face impassive as he studied the proceedings with keen interest. I have a past, Your Honor, Archer said. It's just not relevant to why we're here today. A loud thump interrupted the tension as someone dropped a heavy law book at the clerk's station. Archer's reaction was subtle but telling. His weight shifted instantly into a balanced stance, hands flat on the table, eyes scanning for threats before returning to their neutral position. The movement lasted less than a second, but Bailiff Watts noticed, her eyes narrowing with recognition. So did Judge Harwick. Interesting reflexes for a maintenance man, he observed, almost like combat training. He smiled thinly. Let's try again. Where were you from 2008 to 2014, Mr. Thorne? I worked various jobs, Your Honor. Which jobs? Where? There's no record of employment, no tax filings, no address of residence during those years. Harwick's voice rose slightly. You appear to have materialized out of thin air in Cedar Hill 5 years ago. At the back of the courtroom, Commander Sauvage leaned forward slightly, his attention locked on Archer. He whispered something to a young aide seated beside him, who immediately slipped out of the courtroom. I traveled for work, Archer said, his composure never wavering. Contract jobs, mostly overseas, security consulting. Security consulting, Harwick repeated, making the words sound fictional. How convenient. No paperwork, no verification possible. He smiled coldly. What firms did you work for, Mr. Thorne? Surely you can name one? Classified, Archer said, then immediately looked as if he regretted the word. A ripple went through the courtroom. Harwick's eyebrows rose in theatrical disbelief. Classified? Are we to believe you were some kind of secret agent, Mr. Thorne? The gallery tittered with laughter. Bailiff Watts had shifted position slightly, her hand now resting near her weapon. Not threatening Archer, but prepared for something. Her posture had changed, becoming more alert, more military. Her eyes flicked to Commander Savage, then back to Archer. "I didn't say that," Archer replied carefully. "I simply meant that my employment during those years involved confidentiality agreements." "Of course it did," Harwick said, his sarcasm thick. "How very mysterious." He leaned forward. "What kind of example are you setting for your daughter, Mr. Thorne? A father with no verifiable past, no skills worth noting on employment forms, breaking the law when it's inconvenient." Archer's hands tightened slightly on the table, the first visible sign of emotion. "My daughter knows who I am." The courtroom door creaked open, and Finley peeked in. She'd come during lunch break, clutching a paper bag. Her eyes found her father immediately. The warmth in Archer's expression was unmistakable as their gazes met, and he gestured subtly for her to wait outside. The door closed softly behind her. Harwick, seeing this interaction, found his pressure point. His smile turned predatory. "Does she really? Does she know who you were before you became this nobody?" The temperature in the courtroom seemed to drop. Vivian's fingers hovered over her stenotype. Delaney shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "My past is irrelevant to these charges," Archer said, his voice controlled, but with an edge that hadn't been there before. "I decide what's relevant in my courtroom," Harwick snapped, then paused as Bailiff Watts approached with a thin folder. She spoke quietly in his ear, handing him the documents. Harwick's eyes widened slightly as he scanned the contents, then hardened with renewed purpose. "Interesting," he said, looking up at Archer with fresh intensity. "I've just received an inquiry that was sent to the court this morning. Special Forces Personnel Department, looking for information on former operators from 2008-2014. Men who might have fallen through the cracks." He smiled thinly. "Quite a coincidence, wouldn't you say?" Archer's face remained impassive, but something in his posture changed, a stillness that seemed to radiate quiet danger. Delaney stood abruptly. "Your Honor, may we approach?" "No need, Counselor," Harwick waved him off. "I'm simply establishing character." He turned back to Archer. "Where were you in June 2011, Mr. Thorne?" A flash of something, pain, memory, crossed Archer's face. "I don't see how that's relevant, Your Honor." "Answer the question." "Classified," Archer said quietly, the word heavy with resignation. The courtroom stirred. Harwick's eyes lit up in triumph. "So, you admit you were military, despite no record of service?" "I didn't say that." "Then what are you saying, Mr. Thorne?" Harwick pressed, voice rising. "What exactly was classified? What unit did you serve with? What rank? Or is that all made up too, like everything else about you?" Vivian had stopped typing, her hands hovering over the keys as she watched the exchange with growing concern. Commander Savage was now standing at the back of the courtroom, tension visible in every line of his body. Harwick stood, leaning over his bench. "Let's cut to the chase. You present yourself as this upstanding single father, but you're living a lie. Your daughter deserves to know what kind of man you really are." Something dangerous flickered in Archer's eyes, there and gone in an instant. "Every soldier has a nickname," Harwick continued, voice carrying to every corner of the suddenly silent room. "A call sign. If you were really military, you'd have one." He smiled cruelly. "So, tell us, Mr. Thorne, or whoever you are, what did they call you in this imaginary unit of yours?" The room held its collective breath. Archer looked up, really looked at Harwick for the first time. Something shifted in his gaze, not anger, but a decision being made. "You're asking for my call sign?" His voice had changed, precise, carrying authority that hadn't been there before. Harwick, enjoying himself, laughed. "Yes, tough guy. What did they call you in your made-up war stories?" Archer's eyes held Harwick's. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried to every corner of the now silent room. "Ghost Reaper." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pen dropped from Rhodes Delaney's hand, clattering loudly in the silence. Commander Savage went absolutely still. Bailiff Watts inhaled sharply, and Judge Harwick's face, first confused, then disbelieving, suddenly drained of all color. Have you ever seen someone who was badly underestimated finally reveal their true identity? Tell me in the comments below about a time when you or someone you know was unfairly judged, only for others to later discover their hidden strength or value. If this story resonates with you, please subscribe for more tales of hidden heroes and moments of reckoning. Silence blankets the courtroom like fresh snow. Judge Harwick stares at Archer, shock replacing his arrogance. His mouth opens, closes, then opens again. "What did you say?" he whispers, voice suddenly unsteady. "You heard me," Archer replies quietly, not repeating the name. Harwick's hand trembles as he reaches for his water glass, knocking it over. Water spills across his papers, but he doesn't seem to notice. His eyes have gone distant, seeing something far beyond the courtroom walls. For a brief moment, it's as if he's transported back in time, a younger Harwick sitting in a secure briefing room, classified documents spread before him, photos of a massacre that still haunts his dreams. A single redacted file with Ghost Reaper stamped across it in angry red letters. A stern intelligence officer saying words that echo in his memory. The operation never existed, and neither did he. This briefing never happened. Yet here he sits, face to face with a ghost. "This proceeding is in recess," Harwick manages, his voice cracking. 15 minutes. He stands so abruptly that his chair nearly topples, then hurries from the bench, disappearing through the door to his chambers. The gallery erupts in confused whispers. Most spectators have no idea what just happened, but they recognize the dramatic shift in power. The imperious judge who moments ago wielded authority like a weapon has been reduced to a trembling shadow of himself by 2 whispered words. Rhodes Delaney stares at Archer with new eyes, respect and wariness mingling in his expression. Vivian Mercer's fingers remain frozen above her stenotype. She's recorded thousands of proceedings, but never one like this. Bailiff Watts approaches Archer, but doesn't touch him. Instead, she subtly positions herself between him and the exit, not restraining, but protecting. "Sir," she says quietly, pitched for his ears only, "can I get you anything?" Archer shakes his head, a bare movement. "My daughter is waiting outside. Could someone let her know I'll be a bit longer?" Watts nods and signals to a deputy, who moves toward the door. Before he reaches it, Commander Savage approaches the railing that separates the gallery from the proceedings. His decorated uniform speaks of decades of service, but it's his eyes that command attention, eyes that have seen the same horrors as Archer's. No words are exchanged between the two men, just a solemn nod from Archer. Savage returns it with a formal, almost imperceptible salute before stepping back. The deputy returns with Finley in tow, her eyes wide as she takes in the unusual tension of the courtroom. "Dad, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," Archer says, his voice warming as he addresses her. "Just a short break. The judge needed to check something." Finley glances around, sensing the undercurrents but unable to decipher them. "I brought your lunch. You forgot it on the counter again." She holds up a paper bag. "Thanks, sweetheart," Archer says with a genuine smile. "Why don't you wait in the hallway? This shouldn't take much longer." After Finley leaves, Rhodes Delaney approaches the defense table, now speaking in hushed tones. "The charges will be dropped." He hesitates, then adds, "I served 2 tours in Afghanistan, never in Kandahar, but I knew people who did." He slides a business card across the table. On it is handwritten, "Kandahar, we remember, thank you." Archer accepts the card with a slight nod, but says nothing. His composure has returned, the brief glimpse of the man he once was tucked away again, beneath the quiet exterior of a single father. The 15-minute recess stretches to 20, then 30. The gallery grows restless, but no one leaves. Something historic is unfolding, even if most don't understand its significance. Finally, the door to the judge's chambers opens. Harwick emerges, his face ashen. Behind him stands a woman in a crisp navy suit, her silver hair cut in a severe bob. She carries herself with unmistakable authority. A few in the gallery recognize her, Lyra Westlake, Director of Special Activities, though her exact title and agency affiliation change depending on who's asking. Harwick returns to the bench, but something fundamental has changed. His movements are stiff, mechanical, his eyes avoiding Archer entirely. Case number 2023 CR 371, Commonwealth versus Archer Thorne, he intones. All charges are hereby dismissed with prejudice. He raises his gavel, then hesitates, a flash of conflict crossing his face. Pride battles with something that might be shame. Pride loses. The court offers its apologies to Mr. Thorne for any inconvenience. The gavel falls with a decisive crack. "We're adjourned," Harwick announces, already standing to leave. He exits quickly, not looking back. Director Westlake remains, her calculating gaze fixed on Archer as he gathers his few belongings. The gallery begins to disperse, conversations hushed but animated. Something significant has happened here today. Something that will fuel courthouse gossip for months to come. Outside in the hallway, Finley waits, homework spread around her on a wooden bench. She looks up as her father emerges. "Everything okay, Dad?" Archer smiles, the warmth returning to his eyes. "Better than okay. We can fish at the pier again." She beams, oblivious to the seismic shift that has just occurred in her father's carefully constructed life. "Really? That's great. Can we go this weekend?" "Absolutely," he promises, helping her gather her books. As they walk toward the courthouse exit, several people step aside, making way for them with newfound deference. Outside, the autumn sun bathes the courthouse steps in golden light. Finley chatters about her day as they descend, but Archer's attention is caught by a black SUV pulling up to the curb. The vehicle is unmarked but unmistakably government issue. Director Westlake emerges, her movements precise and economical. "Mr. Thorne," she calls. "A moment." Archer stiffens but doesn't stop walking. "Not now," he says quietly. Westlake keeps pace, her low heels clicking on the pavement. "The country still needs men like you." Archer looks at Finley, then back at Westlake. "I'm already serving where I'm needed most." He places his hand protectively on Finley's shoulder. Westlake studies his face, then nods in understanding. But as they continue walking, she places a business card on a nearby bench. "When she's grown, if you change your mind." Archer doesn't acknowledge the gesture, but he doesn't need to. Both know he's aware of every detail around him, a habit that saved his life countless times in another life. "Who was that, Dad?" Finley asks as they walk away. "Just someone who thought they knew me a long time ago," Archer replies. They walk in comfortable silence for a few blocks, the courthouse receding behind them. The town of Cedar Hill unfolds around them, a place where Archer Thorne has built a quiet, normal life, a life that now hangs in precarious balance. "Can we stop for ice cream?" Finley asks, breaking the silence. "School night," Archer reminds her gently. "But you just won your case," she points out with 13-year-old logic. "That deserves celebration." Archer smiles, unable to argue with her reasoning. One scoop. They detour to Simmons Ice Cream Parlor, a Cedar Hill institution. As they enter, the bell above the door chimes softly. The shop is nearly empty on this weekday afternoon, just an elderly couple in the corner and Mr. Simmons himself behind the counter. "Afternoon, Thorns," Simmons greets them warmly. He's known them since they moved to town, often slipping Finley an extra scoop when business is slow. "What'll it be today?" "Chocolate chip for me," Finley decides after the obligatory deliberation. "Dad will have vanilla." "So predictable," Simmons teases, already scooping. "Always vanilla." Archer accepts the gentle ribbing with good humor, but his attention has shifted. Through the shop window, he spots a sedan moving slowly down the street, its occupants taking more interest in the ice cream parlor than seems natural for people passing by. "Why do you always get vanilla, Dad?" Finley asks, accepting her cone. "There are like 30 flavors." "I like knowing what I'm getting," Archer answers, keeping his tone light while his eyes track the sedan as it parks across the street. Two men in suits remain in the vehicle, watching. They eat their ice cream at a small table by the window. Finley talks about school, her upcoming science project, a classmate's birthday party this weekend. Archer listens attentively, but his awareness extends beyond the shop walls, cataloging every car that passes, every person who walks by. "Ready?" he asks when they've finished. Finley nods, and they head for the door, Archer positioning himself between his daughter and the street as they exit. The men in the sedan are still there, making no attempt to hide their surveillance. Archer guides Finley in the opposite direction, toward home. Their house is modest, 2 bedrooms, small yard, simple furnishings. But it's theirs, bought with the savings Archer had carefully hidden away, before he disappeared from his previous life, before he became just Archer Thorne, single father and maintenance man. As they approach, Archer notices subtle signs that someone has been there. The garden gate closed differently, the blinds in his bedroom window at a slightly different angle than he left them. His posture tenses almost imperceptibly. "Homework first, then we'll start on your science project," he tells Finley as they enter, his eyes scanning the living room for disturbances. "Can we order pizza tonight?" Finley asks hopefully, dropping her backpack on the couch. "Since we're celebrating?" "Not a bad idea," Archer agrees, moving through the house with casual precision, checking rooms without appearing to do so. Nothing seems disturbed, but he knows they've been here, checking, confirming, preparing. The evening unfolds with deceptive normalcy. They order pizza. Archer helps Finley with her algebra homework. Then they begin constructing the marble roller coaster for her science project. The work is precise, requiring focus and patience, qualities Archer has in abundance. When the project is taking shape, Finley asks casually, "What happened in court today? It felt weird in there." Archer's hands pause momentarily. The judge realized he'd made a mistake. "About the peer?" "About me," Archer says simply. Finley studies him with eyes that sometimes seem older than her years. "People underestimate you a lot, don't they, Dad?" A small smile touches Archer's lips. "Sometimes that's useful." Later, when Finley is in bed, Archer sits in the darkened living room, a single lamp casting long shadows across the floor. He retrieves a burner phone from a hidden compartment beneath a floorboard, one of many emergency measures installed when they first moved in. The phone has only one number programmed into it. He stares at it for a long moment before pressing call. It's answered on the first ring. "Secure," says a male voice. "The seal is broken," Archer says quietly, using a phrase established years ago for this exact contingency. A pause. "Location? Compromised but stable. Need to know how far this goes." "Understood. Stay in place for now. Assets are being positioned." The voice softens slightly. "You good, Ghost?" "I'm good, Spectre," Archer replies, using a call sign he hasn't spoken in years. "Just keep it contained." "Copy that. We've got your 6. The call ends. Archer disassembles the phone, removing the battery and SIM card. He'll dispose of the pieces separately tomorrow. Outside, a car drives slowly past the house, its headlights briefly illuminating the living room before continuing down the street. Not the sedan from earlier. A different vehicle, different agency. The circles are widening. Morning arrives with deceptive brightness. Archer rises before dawn, as always, his body still trained to the rhythms of a different life. He goes through his morning routine: coffee, check perimeter, stretch, prepare Finley's lunch. By the time Finley emerges from her bedroom, yawning and rumpled, breakfast is waiting. "Morning, Dad," she mumbles, dropping into her chair. "Morning, sunshine," he replies, sliding a plate of eggs and toast in front of her. "Sleep well?" She manages between bites. "Is the roller coaster dry yet?" "Should be. We can test it after school." The walk to school follows their usual route, but nothing is usual anymore. Archer spots the watchers easily, 2 on foot, another in a parked car near the school. Not threatening, just observing. For now. "Dad?" Finley's voice pulls him back. "Are you listening?" "Sorry, sweetheart. What were you saying?" "I asked if you could come to career day next week. Ms. Rivera wants parents to talk about their jobs." Archer hesitates. "I'll check my schedule at the senior center." "It's okay if you can't," Finley says quickly. "I know you're busy." "I'll be there," he promises, squeezing her hand. At the school entrance, Finley gives him a quick hug before disappearing inside. Archer watches until she's safely through the doors, then turns to head home. He has a shift at the senior living facility at noon, but first, he needs to assess the new landscape of his life. 2 blocks from the school, a familiar black SUV pulls alongside him. The passenger window lowers, revealing Director Westlake. "Get in, Ghost Reaper," she says, her voice carrying no room for refusal. Archer doesn't move. "I have work at noon." "Your shifts have been covered. Get in." After a moment's consideration, Archer opens the door and slides into the passenger seat. The SUV pulls away from the curb smoothly. "You've put us in a difficult position," Westlake says as they drive. 6 years of careful non-existence undone in a moment of pride. "Not pride," Archer corrects quietly. "He brought my daughter into it." Westlake's expression softens fractionally. "Always your weakness." She sighs. The judge has been contained, Memory issues, they're saying. Stress-induced. He's taking an extended leave of absence. And the others? Court staff have been spoken to. Most of them don't know what happened anyway, just that you somehow spooked Harwick. The prosecutor is former military. He understands discretion. Commander Savage? Retired, but still one of us. He recognized you from the Karzai extraction. He's the one who alerted us. Archer processes this information silently. And now, Westlake studies him. That depends on you. The Ghost Reaper program was officially decommissioned after Kandahar. All operators either reassigned or retired. You chose a third option. I didn't choose anything, Archer says, an edge entering his voice. I was left for dead in a village that doesn't exist, in an operation that never happened. And yet, here you are, Westlake counters, very much alive, raising a daughter, cutting grass at a retirement home. The SUV stops at a red light. Through the window, Archer can see normal life continuing. People, walking dogs, running errands, living without looking over their shoulders. What do you want from me, Director? The landscape has changed since you left service, Westlake says carefully. New threats, new methodologies, but some problems still require old solutions. She hands him a thin file. 3 former Ghost Reaper targets have resurfaced. They're coordinating something big. Archer doesn't open the file. I'm out. No one's ever out, Ghost. You know that. We're offering you a chance to do this on your terms. Limited engagement, full support, substantial compensation. I have a daughter who will have a very comfortable life with the payment we're offering. College anywhere she wants. Security for both of you. Westlake pauses. Or you can wait for them to find you, because they will, now that your name is in play again. The only question is whether you'll be prepared when they do. The light turns green, and the SUV moves forward again. They drive in silence for several blocks before Westlake speaks again. We're not asking you to leave her. 3 weeks, maybe 4. You'll be back before she knows you were gone. You're talking about sending me back to Kandahar, Archer says flatly, to clean up the mess you left behind. I'm talking about protecting your daughter from what's coming, what is already in motion. Westlake's voice hardens. Open the file, Ghost. Archer stares at the folder for a long moment before flipping it open. Inside are 3 photographs, men he once hunted, men he believed dead. His expression doesn't change as he studies them, but something cold enters his eyes. The one on the left was spotted in Cedar Hill 3 days ago, Westlake says quietly. Archer's head snaps up. Before the court appearance? Yes, it's possible he recognized you first. It's possible this whole thing was engineered to flush you out. The implications settle over Archer like a physical weight. If they knew where he was, they knew about Finley. The court case, Harwick's unusual focus on his background, the timely arrival of the Special Forces inquiry, all could have been manipulated to force him into the open. I need to get my daughter, he says, voice tight with controlled urgency. Already handled, Westlake assures him. She's being picked up by someone who looks remarkably like you, with proper ID and knowledge of your emergency code word. She'll be taken to a secure location until we determine threat levels. Archer's hand moves to his waist, where a weapon would have been in his previous life. Stand down, Ghost, Westlake says firmly. This is protection, not abduction. You can join her there, or you can help us eliminate the threat permanently. Your call. The SUV turns onto a quiet side street and stops. Through the windshield, Archer can see a nondescript office building with reflective windows. This is as far as I go, Westlake says. Through those doors is a team waiting for your decision. If you walk away now, we'll still protect your daughter, but we can't guarantee your safety indefinitely. Archer sits motionless, weighing options, calculating risks. One thing to consider, Westlake adds. The men who survived Kandahar blame you, not us. In their eyes, you're the traitor who led them into a trap. They won't stop until they find you, and when they do, they won't just kill you. The threat to Finley hangs unspoken between them. 3 weeks, Archer says finally. Give or take. I want to see her first, before I go anywhere. Westlake nods. That can be arranged? Archer reaches for the door handle, then pauses. You engineered all of this, didn't you? The court case, Harwick, all of it. Westlake's expression reveals nothing. We work with what we have, Ghost. You taught us that. Archer exits the vehicle without another word. As he approaches the building, his posture subtly changes. Back straightening, movements becoming more precise, eyes constantly scanning. With each step, Archer Thorne recedes, and Ghost Reaper emerges from the shadows where he has waited patiently for 6 years. Inside the building, a receptionist greets him with a knowing nod and gestures toward an elevator. "They're expecting you on 3, sir." The elevator doors close around him like the lid of a coffin. As he ascends, Archer allows himself one moment of doubt, one moment to consider turning back. Then the doors open, revealing a conference room where 6 people in tactical gear are gathered around a table covered with maps and equipment. They look up as one when he enters. Recognition flashes in their eyes, followed by something that might be awe or fear or both. "Ghost," says the leader, a woman with close-cropped hair and eyes like flint. "Welcome back." The moment stretches, taut with potential energy. Then Archer steps forward, and the last 6 years of peace fall away like a discarded skin. "Where's my daughter?" he asks, his voice carrying the cold authority of Ghost Reaper. Have you ever had to become someone you thought you left behind to protect what matters most? Share in the comments if you've ever had to resurrect an old version of yourself when circumstances demanded it. If this resonates with you, subscribe to follow Archer's journey as he faces the consequences of his past life, colliding with his present one. "She's safe," the woman with the close-cropped hair answers, meeting Ghost's gaze without flinching. "Hazelwood facility, 30 minutes from here. We can take you there now, or after the briefing." "Now," Ghost says, his voice leaving no room for debate. The woman, Major Sloan Ellis according to her tactical vest, nods once. "Michaels, bring the vehicle around." A stocky man with a communication set exits immediately. "The rest of you prepare for briefing in 2 hours." The team disperses with military efficiency, leaving Ghost and Ellis alone in the conference room. "It's really you," Ellis says, maintaining a professional tone, despite the awe in her eyes. "The program tried to recreate what you did in Kandahar. 8 operators, the best we had. None came close." Ghost ignores the praise. "My daughter knows nothing about my past. I want to keep it that way." "Understood. Her protective detail has been briefed. As far as she knows, you're consulting on a maintenance project at a government facility, and there's been a gas leak near your house." Ellis hesitates. "We had to move quickly. There wasn't time for a more elaborate cover." "She's 13, not stupid," Ghost says. "She'll have questions. That's why we're taking you to her now. You can fill in the details yourself." The drive to the Hazelwood facility passes in tense silence. The building itself is unremarkable, a converted corporate retreat nestled against the edge of a state forest, its perimeter secured discreetly but thoroughly. Inside, the reception area is designed to look like an upscale hotel, complete with staff in hospitality uniforms. Only the subtle earpieces and the way their eyes track movement betray their true purpose. Ghost is led to a comfortable suite on the 2nd floor. When the door opens, Finley looks up from where she sits cross-legged on a sofa, a book open on her lap. "Dad!" she exclaims, relief flooding her face as she jumps up. "What's going on? They said something about a gas leak, but no one will tell me anything real." Ghost crosses the room and embraces her, feeling her small frame against his chest. For a moment, he is just Archer again, a father holding his daughter, the most important mission he's ever accepted. "It's complicated, sweetheart," he says, easing back to look at her. "There's a situation I need to help with, a special project." Finley's eyes narrow with the perception that sometimes startles him. "This isn't about a gas leak, is it?" "No," Ghost admits, choosing his words carefully. "It's about my old job, before you were born." "The security consulting?" Finley asks, and he can see her piecing things together, her quick mind working through the fragments she's gathered over the years. "Something like that. Some people I used to work with need my help." He squeezes her shoulders gently. "It means I'll have to go away for a little while." Fear flashes across her face. "How long is a little while?" "A few weeks at most. You'll stay here where it's safe." "Safe from what?" Finley demands, taking a step back. "Dad, what's really happening? First the court thing, now this." She gestures around the room. "This isn't normal." Ghost has faced interrogations in 6 languages, endured torture on 3 continents, but nothing has ever been as difficult as this moment with his daughter. "You're right," he says finally. It isn't normal, and you deserve better than half-truths. He guides her back to the sofa and sits beside her. Before I was your dad, I had a different job. A difficult job that sometimes made dangerous people angry. You were a soldier, Finley says, quietly. Not a question. Ghost looks at her in surprise. What makes you say that? She shrugs. The way you move sometimes, the way you always check exits when we go somewhere new, the nightmares you try to hide. She meets his eyes. And sometimes when you think I'm not looking, you get this look, like you're somewhere else, somewhere bad. The perception cuts through his carefully constructed facade. Yes, he acknowledges. I was a soldier, a specific kind of soldier who did things that weren't always talked about. Dangerous things? Very dangerous, but necessary things to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. He takes her hand. When you came into my life, I left that world behind, started over. And now it's found you again, Finley concludes, her voice small but steady. Yes, and until I resolve it, this is the safest place for you to be. Finley is quiet for a long moment, absorbing this new reality. The judge, she says suddenly. He found out who you really are, didn't he? That's why he looks so scared. Ghost nods, seeing no point in lying. Yes. Are you going to fight? The question hangs between them, heavy with implications. Ghost chooses his words with care. I'm going to make sure we're safe, so we can go back to our life. Promise you'll come back, Finley demands, her voice cracking slightly. I promise, Ghost says, pulling her close again. Nothing in this world could keep me from coming back to you. They spend the afternoon together in the suite, Ghost helping Finley set up her remote schoolwork on a provided laptop, both of them pretending that this is just a temporary inconvenience. But when evening comes and Ellis returns, the weight of what's to come settles over them. It's time for the briefing, Ellis says from the doorway. Ghost nods, then turns to Finley. I have to go now, but I'll be back before you leave for school in the morning. We'll have breakfast together. Okay, Finley says, trying to sound brave. Dad, be careful. Always am, he assures her with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. The briefing room is Spartan, a table, chairs, and state-of-the-art display screens. The team is assembled when Ghost enters, their conversation stopping mid-sentence as all eyes turn to him. Director Westlake stands at the head of the table. Now that we're all here, let's begin. She activates a screen showing 3 photographs. Amir Qadri, Vadim Petrov, and Saeed al-Jabri. Former assets turned high-value targets after the Kandahar incident. Ghost studies the faces, older now, marked by the years and whatever horrors they've experienced, but unmistakably the men he once led into what was supposed to be a precision extraction, what became instead a massacre. All 3 were presumed dead in the aftermath, Westlake continues. All 3 have resurfaced within the past 6 months, operating under the network name Lazarus Protocol. Appropriate, Ghost comments dryly. Quite. Their activities suggest a coordinated operation, targeting former Ghost Reaper personnel and their handlers. 2 retired support staff have already been eliminated, a communications specialist in Berlin, and a logistics officer in Cape Town. Images of crime scenes appear on screen. The kills are professional, methodical. Their ultimate target appears to be Operation Citadel, the classified umbrella program that authorized Ghost Reaper and similar initiatives. Westlake looks directly at Ghost. They're working their way up the chain, and they've discovered your new identity. Ghost processes this information with cold efficiency. Motive? Revenge, primarily. They believe they were deliberately sacrificed in Kandahar as part of a larger geopolitical maneuver. Westlake's expression gives nothing away. They're not entirely wrong. The admission hangs in the air, confirmation of suspicions Ghost has harbored for years. And you want me to clean up your mess. We want you to neutralize a genuine threat to yourself and to national security, Westlake corrects smoothly. The fact that you have personal history with these targets makes you uniquely qualified. You mean I know how they think? Precisely. Westlake nods to Ellis, who distributes tablets to everyone at the table. Major Ellis will lead the tactical team. You'll operate as independent consultant with full operational authority. Ghost scrolls through the information on the tablet. Safe house locations, intelligence reports, surveillance photographs. One image catches his attention. A mere cadre, sitting on a park bench in Cedar Hill, the elementary school visible in the background. The timestamp shows it was taken just days ago. "They've been watching my daughter," he says, his voice dangerously quiet. "Yes," Westlake confirms, "which is why time is of the essence." Ghost sets the tablet down. "I'm not doing this as your operative. I'm doing it to protect my family. Once it's done, we're out, completely. New identities, new location, full immunity." Westlake studies him for a long moment. "Those terms are acceptable, provided the threat is fully neutralized." "It will be," Ghost promises, and the cold certainty in his voice causes several team members to shift uncomfortably in their seats. The next 48 hours unfold with methodical precision. Intelligence is gathered, equipment prepared, contingencies planned. Ghost works with Ellis's team, evaluating their capabilities, adjusting their tactics to match the targets they'll be facing. "They're good," he tells Ellis after reviewing the team's training records. "But Kadri and his people are ghosts. They've been operating undetected for years, and they're motivated by more than money or ideology." "What are we facing?" Ellis asks bluntly. "Men with nothing to lose," Ghost replies. "Men who've already died once and come back. That makes them dangerous in ways your team can't understand." "Then help us understand." Ghost considers this, then nods toward the training facility visible through the window. "Get them ready. I'll be down in 10 minutes. When Ghost enters the training area, the team is assembled in full tactical gear. Without preamble, he addresses them. "Everything you know about counterterrorism operations, forget it. The men we're hunting don't follow established patterns. They don't have support networks you can map or communications you can intercept. They move like water, adapt instantly, and kill without hesitation." He approaches a tactical board and sketches a quick diagram. Standard entry protocol for a suspected hostile location. He gestures to a team member. "Walk me through it." The operator describes a textbook approach: perimeter secure, entry points identified, team positions established. Ghost nods, then swiftly erases the diagram and draws a new one. This is how Kadri thinks. He expects the textbook. He prepares for it. When you come through the front, he's already left through a tunnel you didn't know existed. When you secure the perimeter, he's watching from inside your secure zone because he arrived 24 hours earlier and never left. For the next 2 hours, Ghost dismantles their training, rebuilding it with the lessons learned through blood and sacrifice. By the end, there's a new respect in their eyes, not just for the legend of Ghost Reaper, but for the tactician behind it. On the morning of the operation, Ghost returns to Finley's suite as promised. She's already awake, dressed in clothes provided by the facility, her schoolbooks spread across the table. "You're going today, aren't you?" she asks without looking up. "Yes," Ghost confirms, sitting across from her. "But I'll be back soon." "The people you're going after," Finley says carefully, "are they bad people?" Ghost considers the complexity of the question. How to explain to a 13-year-old that the men he's hunting were once his brothers in arms, that they became bad people only after a betrayal he was unwittingly part of. "They're dangerous people," he answers finally. "They want to hurt others, and they need to be stopped." Finley looks up, her eyes too old for her face. "Be careful, Dad. I need you to come home." "I will," he promises, reaching across to squeeze her hand. "That's the mission that matters most." The operation launches at dusk. Intelligence has located a safe house used by Kadri's network in an abandoned industrial complex 30 miles outside the city. Ghost leads the advance team, moving through the shadows with the fluid grace of a predator returning to familiar hunting grounds. The complex is quiet. Too quiet. Ghost signals a halt, his instincts screaming a warning. "It's wrong," he murmurs into his comm. "Ellis, hold the perimeter team. Something's off." Thermals showing 3 heat signatures inside the main building. Ellis responds from her position in the command vehicle. "Too obvious," Ghost says, scanning the darkened structures. His gaze settles on a maintenance shed that doesn't quite match the architectural style of the other buildings. "That shed, what's your intel on it?" A pause. "Not much. Believed to be storage, low priority." "Change of plans. I'm checking it first. Solo. Negative Ghost. Protocol requires minimum 2-person entry." Ghost is already moving. "Not my protocol." He approaches the shed with practiced caution, noting the recently disturbed earth around its foundation. the faint but distinct odor of gun oil and cigarette smoke. The lock on the door is new, incongruous with the rusted hinges. Picking it takes seconds. The door swings open to reveal a steep staircase descending into darkness. Ghost activates his night vision and begins the descent, weapon at the ready. The basement is larger than the shed above would suggest, extending beneath the adjacent buildings. Makeshift living quarters, communications equipment, weapons caches, all the hallmarks of a long-term base of operations. And pinned to a central planning board, photographs of Archer Thorne and Finley, at school, at the ice cream parlor, at home. Their entire life mapped with meticulous detail. Ghost's blood runs cold. This isn't just a safe house. It's an operations center for a mission targeting his family. He's about to call in the team when a voice speaks from the shadows, familiar, accented, forever burned into his memory. "Hello, Ghost. Or do you prefer Archer now?" Amir Qadri steps into view, older but still bearing the lethal grace that made him one of Ghost Reaper's most effective operators. He holds no weapon, but his eyes are enough to convey the threat. "Amir," Ghost acknowledges, his weapon trained on his former teammate. "You're supposed to be dead." "So are you," Qadri replies with a grim smile. "Yet here we are, the ghosts of Kandahar, haunting each other across continents. Where are Petrov and Al-Jabri?" Qadri's smile widens. "Not here. This meeting is just for us, old friend. Team leader to team leader." Ghost doesn't lower his weapon. "You've been watching my daughter." "As you once watched mine," Qadri says, his smile vanishing. "Before you led us into that village." The accusation lands like a physical blow. "I didn't know what would happen. None of us did. But they knew," Qadri spits, gesturing upward to indicate their handlers. "They sacrificed my family, my village, everything I had, and you were their instrument. If that's true, then I'm as much a victim as you are." Qadri laughs bitterly. "Victim? Look at you, Ghost. A comfortable American life, a daughter who adores you. My children are in graves I cannot even visit." Ghost says nothing, the weight of Kandahar pressing down on him, as it has for years. "I could have taken her," Qadri continues, nodding toward the photographs of Finley. "Any day of the past month, I could have balanced the scales. But you didn't." "No." Qadri's expression softens fractionally. "Because despite everything, I remembered the man who pulled me from that burning transport in Mosul, the man who carried Petrov for 3 miles after he was wounded. I remembered my brother." Ghost studies him, searching for deception and finding only pain. "What do you want, Amir?" "The truth," Qadri says simply. "Before I kill you, before your team kills me, I want to know why. Why Kandahar? Why my village? Why my family?" The moment stretches between them, taut with shared history and divergent paths. "I don't have that answer," Ghost admits finally, "but I know how to get it." Qadri's eyes narrow. "Explain." "Westlake. She was deputy director then, director now. She knows everything about Kandahar, about why we were sent there." Ghost lowers his weapon slightly. "Help me get to her, and we'll both have the truth." Disbelief crosses Qadri's face. "You would turn on your masters?" "They were never my masters," Ghost says firmly, "and they use both of us." For a long moment, Qadri considers, then he nods once. "If this is a trick—" "It's not," Ghost assures him, "but my daughter stays out of it. Whatever happens, she remains untouched." "You have my word," Qadri says solemnly. "Children should not pay for their father's sins." The alliance is fragile, built on the brittle foundation of shared betrayal. Ghost contacts Ellis, reporting the shed clear while concealing Qadri's presence. The operation proceeds according to plan, the team breaching the main building to find the heat signatures are merely space heaters arranged to mimic human occupants. "It's a diversion," Ghost tells Ellis through the comm. "Fall back and regroup. I'm checking the perimeter." Instead, he returns to the shed where Qadri waits. "We have 20 minutes before they realize something's wrong." Qadri nods toward a hidden panel in the wall. "Transportation." The panel slides away to reveal a narrow tunnel leading to an underground garage where a nondescript sedan waits. "Your team?" Ghost asks as they enter the vehicle. "Disbanded temporarily," Qadri replies, starting the engine. "Petrov and Al-Jabri are pursuing other aspects of our operation." "Which is?" Qadri pulls out onto a service road, navigating away from the industrial complex, to expose Operation Citadel, to make them answer for what was done to us, to our families, to the villages that were sacrificed for their geopolitical games. Ghost absorbs this, recognizing the same determination that once made Kadri an exceptional operator. And afterward, Kadri shrugs. If we survive, I go back to being a ghost. Perhaps you return to being Archer Thorne, if there's anything left of him. The drive to the Hazelwood facility is tense, both men hyper-aware of the risk they're taking. Ghost knows that bringing Kadri, a high-value target, a man officially listed as a terrorist, into a secure government facility breaks every protocol. But protocols were created by the same people who betrayed them both in Kandahar. We'll be challenged at the gate, Ghost warns as they approach the facility. Let me handle it. The guard recognizes Ghost immediately, but his eyes widen at the passenger. Sir, I need to verify your companion's clearance. Level 7 override, authorization Sierra Tango 994. Ghost replies smoothly. Director Westlake is expecting us. The guard hesitates, then verifies the code on his terminal. The gate swings open. Yes, sir. She's in the main conference room. Inside, Ghost leads Kadri through corridors he's already memorized, avoiding security checkpoints where possible. They're halfway to the conference room when Ellis intercepts them, her weapon drawn the instant she recognizes Kadri. Stand down, Ghost, she orders, her aim unwavering. Step away from the target. He's not a target anymore, Ghost tells her calmly. He's a witness. We're going to see Westlake. That's not happening, Ellis says. This man is a designated terrorist. Surrender your weapon and step aside. Ghost makes a subtle hand gesture that Kadri recognizes from their years operating together. Cover ready. Major Ellis, I respect your position, but this is bigger than your mission parameters. We need answers about Kandahar. Ellis's expression hardens. Kandahar is classified. Stand down now, or I will consider you compromised. The standoff stretches for 3 tense heartbeats before Westlake's voice cuts through the corridor. Let them pass, Major. Ellis turns in surprise. Westlake stands at the end of the hallway, her posture resigned. I've been expecting this since we brought Ghost back in. Let them through. Reluctantly, Ellis lowers her weapon. Ghost and Kadri proceed to Westlake, who turns and leads them into a private office. Once the door closes, she faces them with weary dignity. I wondered which of you would come for me first, she says, taking a seat behind her desk. I'm almost relieved it's both of you together, efficient. We want the truth about Kandahar, Ghost says without preamble. The real operation behind the operation. Westlake studies them both, then sighs. After all this time, does it really matter? My family died there, Kadri says, his voice like stone. My children, my village, it matters. A long moment passes as Westlake weighs her options. Finally, she reaches into her desk and removes a secure tablet. Operation Citadel was never about extraction or intelligence gathering. Those were covers for the real objective. She activates the tablet, bringing up classified documents that neither Ghost nor Kadri had ever been allowed to see. The village was targeted because it sat on top of something valuable, a rare earth mineral deposit critical for next-generation weapon systems. The local warlords wouldn't negotiate. Traditional military action would have drawn too much attention. So you sent us in, Ghost says, the pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. Knowing the operation would fail. Not fail, Westlake corrects. Succeed differently. The extraction team was never meant to extract anyone. They were meant to draw fire, create a situation that would justify the defensive airstrike that followed. Kadri's face goes blank with rage. My family died for a mining operation? They died because we were at war, Westlake says, her voice hardening. A war fought on many fronts, with many weapons, including economic ones. Ghost feels the weight of every mission he ever carried out, pressing down on him. How many other operations had hidden objectives? How many other times had he been an unwitting instrument of something he would have refused had he known the truth? And me? He asks quietly. Why was I left alive when everyone else was eliminated? Westlake's gaze shifts to him. Because you were the best we ever made. Too valuable to lose, too dangerous to keep. Your apparent death gave us deniability while preserving the possibility of reactivation if needed, she gestures around them, as demonstrated now. The office falls silent as both men absorb the truth they've sought for so long. It's smaller than they imagined, more banal in its evil. Not a grand conspiracy, but the everyday callousness of powerful people making cold calculations. What happens now? Westlake asks finally. You have your truth. Does one of you kill me? Both of you? Do we keep this cycle of violence going until none of us are left? Ghost looks at Kadri, seeing the same weariness he feels reflected in his former teammates' eyes. No, he says. No more killing, not for this. Then what? Westlake presses. Justice, Kadri answers. Public justice, the truth exposed. Westlake laughs bitterly. Expose it then. File your reports. Contact your journalists. See how quickly it's buried, classified, forgotten. Not this time, Ghost says, removing a small device from his pocket, a specialized recording unit activated since their conversation began. This time, the ghosts speak. Westlake's face pales as she recognizes the implications. You'll destroy more than just me, the entire intelligence apparatus. We'll adapt, Ghost finishes for her, as it always does. But the truth comes first, for Kadri's family, for all the others. What follows happens with the swift efficiency that once made Ghost Reaper legendary. The recording is secured, copies made, redundancies established. Kadri contacts Petrov and Al-Jabri, calling off their operations with the promise of greater justice than any they could achieve through violence. Westlake is placed under house arrest pending investigation, a process that will take years and likely end in quiet retirement rather than public accountability. But it's a start. And Ghost returns to Finley, who runs to him the moment he enters their suite at the facility. Dad, are you okay? I'm okay, he assures her, holding her close. And we're going home soon. 3 days later, they do go home, but not to Cedar Hill. A new house awaits them in a small coastal town 2,000 miles away, with new identities, new beginnings, and the promise of security. The house is modest but comfortable, with a view of the ocean from the back deck. As they unload their few belongings, most left behind in their hasty departure, Finley pauses, looking out at the waves. Will we have to move again? She asks, the question revealing how much she understands despite Ghost's attempts to shield her. No, he promises. This is permanent, a fresh start. That evening, as the sun sets over the water, they sit together on the deck. Ghost has spent the day securing the perimeter, installing subtle security measures, establishing emergency protocols, old habits that might never fade. Dad, Finley says after a comfortable silence, what did you mean when you told Mrs. Beckham you made sure people could come home to the ones they loved? Ghost looks at her, surprised. When did I say that? The night before court, when I asked what you did before I was born. The memory returns, tucking her in, answering her question about career day. I meant that protecting people was my job, making sure they were safe. Finley considers this, then nods. Is that still your mission, like you said that night? Yes, Ghost says, watching the fading light paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. That will always be my mission, but now it's just for us. As darkness falls, lights appear along the beach, families with flashlights, couples walking in the moonlight, ordinary people living ordinary lives. From the deck of their new home, Ghost watches them with the vigilant eyes of a protector who has seen too much of the world's darkness. But there's peace in this vigilance now, a purpose untainted by deception or manipulation. For the first time since Kandahar, his mission is truly his own. Beside him, Finley leans against his shoulder, trusting and secure. In that moment, Ghost Reaper recedes once more, and Archer Thorne, father, protector, man of peace, takes his rightful place. Look, Dad, Finley says, pointing to the sky where the first stars have appeared. Make a wish. Archer smiles, wrapping an arm around his daughter's shoulders. Don't need to, he tells her. I already have everything worth wishing for. Have you ever discovered that someone you know has a hidden depth or past that completely changed how you saw them? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes the quietest people carry the heaviest burdens and the strongest character. If you enjoyed this journey of redemption and protection, subscribe for more stories that explore the complexity of ordinary heroes living among us.